Hey y'all, how y'all doing? This is Valerie Johnson Hawkins. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is a day I've never seen before. This is a day that I've never lived before. You know, we know that God has created all things. He's our beginning. He's our end. This is a day that we acknowledge Him. Say, listen, I thank you for my life, health, and strength. I thank you for my children and my children's children. And we begin to speak over our generation, speak over our own life with belief, knowing that He is God. Again, the word says you must come believing that He is God. Now, my subject matter is this: you are not alone. Um, and you can take that to many different variations in your life, but I kind of want to bring it in. I kind of want to focus on our generations and our children's children, especially the generations from the 80s, the 90s, and even before then. This last week or last couple of weeks, I've been finding out a lot of different things, but one of the most things that's been pricking at my heart and hitting my heart is our children from the age of 30, 40, 20 and younger. And I've shared with you many times that I have had 20, maybe 26, 28 foster children. I've had children that were not in the foster system that I just helped, been there for, talked to, stood with, prayed with, cried with, and tried my best to go back, reach back, help bring closure, help give closure, because this is our future and this is our future generation, and they need closure, and we have a job to do. It is our job to let them know, even though that they may feel like it, they've been abandoned, they may feel like it, they've been unloved, they may feel like they're alone, they may feel like they've been discarded, they may feel like nobody had listened to them. It is our job, those of us that are alive today, that have made it, that are in a place to be able to talk with them and say, listen, I know you went through hard times, I know you was facing some stuff, but out there in them streets and the stuff that you have to face is not your fault, was not your fault, how you got there in the first place, and you're not alone. Let's talk about this thing. They had a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, when I was growing up, everybody in the neighborhood helped raise the children. Everybody around the block, everybody around the corner. If you was doing something down the street, or if you was doing something around the corner, somebody would say, hey, I'm going to tell your mom, I'm going to tell your grandmother. Matter of fact, come over here, girl. Let me talk to you. Bring your little butt over here. Let me speak with you. Let me talk with you. Give you some words of wisdom. Get you off of that corner. Get you around from drug addicts. Get you around for people that was fast, or people that didn't mean you any good, because they did not, even though, us being bad little kids, we want to do it anyway, but they did not want those things to influence us. So it took a village to raise a child. It takes other people to say, listen, let me help you help yourself, or let me help your mom and daddy while they're at work, while they're trying to get it how they live and what they're doing. And somewhere down the line, we have lost that. And a lot of our children and our children's children, they're growing up thinking, well, they young men and women now, they out there, they thinking, look, I had to get it how I live. I had to go out there and turn up and make money, hustle men, hustle women. And I had to go out there, and this is a life that I know, this is all that I'm used to. But I want to let you know that you're not alone. And I'm speaking to you, whoever's listening to this. And I'm speaking to your parents. If you're listening to this, it's not too late to take your kids and say, listen. If you felt like that, if you feel like that, let me sit you down. Let me talk with you. And parents, you got to be able to want to listen. Because guess what? We can be wrong sometimes. We can get this thing wrong sometime and turn our children against us. And they begin to rebel, and they go to somebody else, and somebody else that does not have your foundation, somebody else that does not have your mentality, somebody else that does not have your morals or your values, will teach your children and their children. They'll attach to somebody else that does not have the morals, that does not have the values, does not have the etiquette, does not have the education, and they will begin to say, listen, let me tell you, you ain't got to do it like that. You got to get it how you live. And then they begin to change, and they begin to rebel against us because we bringing in the structure and the foundation. Instead of sitting down, instead of hollering at them, disciplining them, we got to sit them down and say, listen, let me explain to you why mama is the way that she is, or why dad is the way that she is. And thank you for those surrogate parents, those aunties and those uncles that have stepped in, and those grandmothers that have stepped in and have taken these children and say, let me help raise them. Don't let the system, if you can at all help it, don't let the system raise your children. But anyway, let me get back to what I'm talking about. Again, saying that you're not alone. You probably never knew what real love was. You probably really don't know what it feels like. And I'm fixing to say some things that maybe the mothers don't want to hear, the fathers don't want to hear, but I got to keep it real, because maybe this will help you. Because when I'm counseling, when I'm talking to people, when we get down to the nitty gritty and they talking about it's always the kid, always this, why they make the choices they make, then it goes back when I get the person by themselves. Then they say, well, listen, I saw it from my mom. I saw it from my dad. I learned it from the environment that I was in, the people that I was around. I saw her doing it. I saw him doing it. And we have to take what? Not only responsibility, hello somebody, but accountability. Because if you allow that door to be open when you're bringing people in, or you're around certain people, or you taking them in certain environments, then guess what? They're going to pick it up. They may be 5, 6 years old now, but that mind remembers, and it projects back. Oh, I remember this, I remember that. And they grow up trying to be like the uncle, the auntie, whoever you took them around. You know, my mother used to take us, and she used to put us in different environments, because she said, listen, y'all got to know how to live in this world with people and know how to talk and communicate on a whole nother level. Just not that ghetto mentality, but know how to articulate your words, understand what a conversation means, be ready to receive a conversation and articulate it the correct way. You'll find out when I talk to a lot of people, I say, okay, now what am I saying to you? Because in all you got to get a good understanding what is being said and how the other person receives it, how they articulate it. And you have to sit down and say, okay, now I just told you why I didn't want you to do this. Now, how do you understand this? Well, because remember, they're influenced by going to school. They're influenced when they leave your house. They go into other people's houses. They go on to clubs, parties, hangouts, kicking spots. They go on to school on that quad, or they're online. They're being influenced by that, by different videos. They're being influenced by social media. And they're not realizing at that age that everybody that they see on social media that's just saying things, you can't go to their house. You saw that thing about, I think, Carly B, when her daughter walked in there and she was doing that video, and she hurried up and shut it down, and she said, listen, I don't want my daughter listening to nothing like this. Snoop Dogg, he didn't want nobody, none of his kids, even listening to anything like that. But we as parents, we were told and ordained, and commanded by God in the Old Testament, and then also comes in the New Testament. He says, listen, teach your children, tell your children. In the book of Deuteronomy, he said, tell your children when they wake up in the morning, when they pass by, when strangers come in and out your house, tell them who did this thing for you, how you were established, how you got to this place, what you went through to get to this place. That you didn't just wake up and have a nice house and nice cars. You had to work towards something. You had a goal. You came through struggling. You came through a desolate place. You came through things to acquire what you have. That you did not get this thing on your own. And you had to believe that I was God to acquire these certain things. Now, I want to tap into that, but I don't want to go there, because that sends us into a whole another conversation, which I'm saving for later. But let me tell you something. Why God said this. He said it to Judah. He said it to Jerusalem. He said it to all of his people, the 12 tribes of Judah. He said it to the Hebrews, the Israelites. Let me tell you something now. You are descendants. Let me tell you something. I want you to wake up, black folks. I want you to wake up and get a good understanding. Maybe I'm the one that's waking up late, but I got a good understanding that we did come from a place, and we are descendants from Negro land. Come on, somebody. That's right up above Africa or down below Africa, and where the slave trade was. We are somebody. And that land in the 1700s was the land of Judah, the tribe of Judah, the people of Judah. And when they were enslaved, I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I got to say it. When they were enslaved, they fled to Africa, which was not known as Africa until a Roman soldier came over there. Come on, somebody. I'm trying to tell you something right here in this street. A Roman soldier came over there. His name is Leo. What's his man's name? Leo Africanus. And he came over there. He named it this. He said all these things. He went back to Europe or went back wherever he was. And now he going to just rename something. But the real name is Alkebulan. Alkebulan, which means the land of the original people. That is one of the oldest names of indigenous people. The mother of mankind is also known as Alkebulan, and also the Garden of Eden. They have so many names because that's where life derived from. But we won't touch that right now because I need to get back over here. But I just want to let you guys know that you guys come from kings, queens, princesses, doctors, lawyers. You guys are something. But what happened is you have not been able and did not have a chance to even establish who you are in this life, in this world. But I'm here to tell you today, I don't care if it's one person out there listening to me, that you are from good stock. You are from somebody. I hate that in the 60s and the 40s, and I hate going all the way back from our people that have been enslaved, that they didn't know that they were somebody, that they were stripped of who they were. But we have a chance in this life, in this era, in this time, to stand up and say, listen, I'm a child of the Most High God, and I'm not taking it no more. I am somebody. I am loved. I'm not to be underneath nobody's feet. I'm not to be nobody's slave. You can be a slave in many different ways, but that mentality has got to change. You have got to wake up in a different way. You know, not just going out there fighting, beating somebody, guns and knives and all this type of stuff, but take time to yourself. Stay out them streets for a little while and get to know yourself. Find out what your heritage is. Find out who you are. And the best way to know that is to have a relationship with God the Father. He is your beginning and He is your end. But I don't want to, let me bring this back on in, because I want you to know that you're not alone and you've never been alone. I get it. I understand the bigger picture. Drugs came into the neighborhood. Drugs came into the scene, much like today. It came in with the methamphetamines, the crack, the what else is it? The crank. Those are the ones of the late 90s and the 2000s. But I'm going back. I'm going back when crack first hit the scene, and before that, it was heroin. Was designed to take our people out. Before that, it was smallpox and so on and so forth. But sit down and learn of your history and learn what we have been through as a people to get where we are. Then we can appreciate our bodies. Then we can appreciate our children and begin to teach our children and begin to say, listen, you somebody. God commanded us. And He commanded us in the book of Deuteronomy. He told Judah, He told Jerusalem, tell your children and your children's children and the generations to come that you are somebody and that you came from something. Listen, I'm just trying to tell you, I grew up thinking that Africa, we all came from Africa. That's just what I grew up thinking. I didn't know anything about Negro land. I had no idea about Negro land. I had no idea about the Dutch. I had no idea about the Europeans and the slave trade and the grain coast. I had no idea, but I had to sit down, listen, and learn to find out exactly what Negro land is. I keep going back to that because it's important. Once you understand, you say, listen, and now over 97,000 to over hundreds of thousands of Negroes, Hebrews, Israelites fled to Africa and fled to other countries so they would not be enslaved or on in those slave ships brought to America. So anyway, I know I'm trying to stay away from that to bring on this, but I want you to reinstate to you that you are somebody. You can look it up yourself. You can find out about this because this is important. You are not alone. I'm saying that to say that God has always been with you. We are the only people that have been stripped. So this just didn't happen in this generation, but this happened back, way back then, in the 1700s and the 1800s, that we have been oppressed, that we have not known who we were. We were stripped. And so I'm bringing that to say that when we were enslaved, that a lot of our parents, our grandfathers and our great grandfathers and our great grandmothers, they didn't know anything else because their self-esteem was broken. They was depressed. They was oppressed. Who they were was stripped from them. Their language was taken from them. They were sent different places. But it's important to you to know, again, I'll say it, God wants me to iterate it. You are not alone. You are not alone. And because you have to know where you come from to know where you're going. So I'm bringing this up to say that abuse has always been a part of the Black heritage in America. Okay, loneliness, abandonment issues, beatings, and being open to abuse, being put down, let down, feeling alone. And we got to shake that devil off. We got to awaken and allow ourselves to live and not die in this thing called life. And we were, again, I go right back to it, we were a generation that was stripped from the knowledge of self. You know, our family traditions. The Chinese people know who they are. You know, you know, the Hispanics know who they are. You know, the Aztecs, they learn, the Hispanic, the Mexicans know who they are, and you know, other people know their culture, but we don't. And so what happens is we begin to implode within ourselves because what we were taught, which was that Willie Lynch stuff. Come on, somebody. That took stuff away from us as being people and as individuals. And we are a people of knowledge. We are doctors. We are lawyers. We are builders. We are inventors. We are creators. We are somebody because we come from something, and that substance is within us. You know, that substance that we have learned, the things that we know, we just know it because of where we come from. Again, where do we come from? A place that was called Mother Earth, a place that was called our beginning. We come from God the Father, who allowed us to learn and know these things within our heart, mind, body, and soul. We can see as something. We like troubleshooters. We can come in there and make that thing right. But anyway, let me back up because I'm talking about this over here, but it has something to do with this right now on today. You know, I truly believe if we have known who we were, our conduct would have been different with our children and our children's children. If we had known how rich our history is, then our mentality would have been different. I would have been the first one. Oh, what's up? I grew up. Hey, what's up, nigga? Ooh. But I'm not no longer saying that. We are Negroes from Negro land. I'm trying to tell you something that's bothering me on a whole nother level, and I'll get back to that. Because when you begin to dig, when you begin to seek and say, okay, and you learn things yourself, get on the computer, put it in there, look it up, see if I know what I'm talking about. Open your spiritual eyes. We were given spiritual eyes. It's in our blood. It's in our bloodline. It's in our lineage. We are a gift. We are gifted. And everything that God made was good. Now, let me get back to this. You're not alone. It feels like it at times. It feels like that hustle, that struggle. What happened? It was a generation that was lost to us as we were coming, descendants coming out of having our own and not feeling so much of the taskmaster or the stronghold of the Willie Lynch that had been over us since we had been here. So those that were born in the 60s and the 70s that are on the scene, you know, the effects of the drugs that was put out for our mothers and our fathers before us and the generation before us begin to come in and destroy that foundation of feeling good about our house, ourselves, and our home. Now, when the 80s hit, I don't know why I'm even talking about this, but when the 80s hit and the drugs came on the scene, I mean, they came on the scene in a big way. Not only did that come on the scene, but our mentality was fed such negative things. You know, in that process, the devil had it all fixed up, all in his cauldron pot, how he was going to kill, steal, and destroy our people in these generations. Behind the abuse, there's many ways to abuse a person, not just physically hitting them, but the mentality can be broken. There's many ways to abuse a person through your actions, through your words, by tearing down and ripping down people and saying things to them out of your mouth, and then acting accordingly to that and allowing them to believe without cleaning it up, without saying, listen, I was just angry, I was just upset. But a lot of our actions are come from an environment of good learned behavior. These are things that was taught to us, that was handed down, that's considered to be learned behavior. We were taught that, you go ahead and you go over here through slavery and abandon our wives and abandon our husbands and abandon our kids because they were beat down and stripped down of who they were, their self-esteem, of who they could be. And in them was light, in them was creativity, and that was taken from them. But we are in a different place now, and we got to get rid of that plantation mentality. We got to get it. We got to get rid of that, and we got to get our kids together, and we got to say, listen, I don't care if your kids are 30, 40 years old. You got to grab them and say, listen, let me talk to you about a few things. Because listen, you might feel like you had to raise yourself because I was going through something, and this is the type that we take responsibility and accountability, and this is why, because of the history of us, this is why in that environment, yeah, we was drinking, yeah, we was doing this, and yes, we was doing that, but we were doing it, why? Because we was stripped, we was raped, we were beaten, we felt abandoned, we felt that God had forgotten about us, we felt that we didn't have no love. Even our own families turned against us. These are conversations, these are hard conversations, but these are conversations that need to be had with our children and our children. You can't sit up there and be like, oh, that's my brother, that's my sister, I don't care what he did. You better care what they did. Especially, I was talking to somebody the other day, or somebody was talking to me, telling me how they went to somebody and said, listen, uncle raped me. I know a girl right now that her mama's brother raped her and did it anytime he wanted to, and nobody listened. And she carried that animosity and that hurt and that pain in her, till she didn't even want to feel like a woman. She didn't want to be a woman. She didn't even know what it was to be, because it was taken from her uncle, who had came in and did what? What did he do? He came to steal who she was. He came in to kill her ambitions. Come on, somebody. And he came in to destroy her as performing and becoming a young woman, and to be able to receive and be married and be progressive in this life, because she was predestinated and she was predestined for goodness. And when he did that, it did something to her, and she felt alone because nobody believed her. She felt abandoned. And I'm using this person as an example, but it also happens to young men. I know a bunch of young men that was raped and molested when they were younger. That was not only that, they were raped mentally so, or physically so, that have been left in closets, that were beat up, that was shut out. And the only way that their mothers or their parents, come on somebody, I just got to tell you the truth. I know y'all don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. The only way that they was able to receive any kind of love from a mother, from a father, anybody else, was behind money, materialistic things, what they could do when they got old enough to do it. As long as you got a money shaker, you shake that money shaker and you get that money. They were taught to go out there and prostitute. They was taught to go out there and hoe. They was taught to go out there and rob and steal, because they were in the environment, in the environment and houses that they were raised. This is what they were told to do. You, as long as you go out there and you get it how you live. Whether it was selling dope, whether it was selling their tail, anything they did, whether it was to rob, to steal, and they were right in the enemy's territory, because that's what he does. He kills, steals, and destroys. He pillages, he takes stuff. And so, because we're all messed up in our mind, back then on drugs, back then behind a man, back then behind a woman, because our environment was so messed up and we had been enslaved and we was on slave plantation, a lot of us allowed our children to live on that, eat off of that fruit, eat off of that meat, eat off of that plantation, put it in their backpacks, carry it to school, get around the same people, and they had the same mentality, and it was crabs in a bucket. And we are wrong. If we don't check ourselves, we're going to wreck ourselves. We need to let our kids know that they're not alone. They weren't abandoned, that God loved them, that they come from greatness. This is why I brought up Negro Land and Africa. That was named after this other man, which is not Africa. That's what he gave the name. But that name is is it Akabulam? Where my paper at? Akabulam, which meant the mother of mankind, the Garden of Eden, and the land of the original people. We are original people. We're all mixed up. We're all mixed in. But let me tell you something. We come from greatness. We didn't. A lot of us, we don't understand and we don't know. We just take it as it is given. But you don't have to take no more. You draw that line and you set that boundary. I know a lot of people not going to be okay with this, but it's all good to those. I just got to tell you, I got to get it off of me because it is on me. A change has to take place, and we have to be the generation to bring about that change. As long as we're on this side of contradiction, God is not through with us yet. And I want to say to you out there, I've worked with the homeless, I've worked with the transient back in the day. I've worked with mental health. I've been out there and took classes. I've done all these things. I've seen, I work with people in prison. I work with people out of prison. I got them when they were older. Then I got them when they were younger. They were foster children. I've got them then. I understand what they've been through. But don't you know, it's a lot of people that grew up that did not go into the system that just basically had to raise themselves and feel like, listen, if I don't get out there and make it happen, it ain't gonna never happen. And they go back on what the environment brings them and what the environment gives them. And it's up to us to say, listen, let's put some things positive into our environment. Let's put positivity into our home. It starts at home. Charity starts at home. That's the word of God. And then it sets abroad. You got to build it up at home. You got to build it up. Let me tell you something about my mother. She built it up at home. She had that music playing. She had everything we needed. If we went out there and did something in the street, it was because we did it. Not because she wanted us to do it, but because we did it. Now, it is up to us to bring this thing back in. I was writing down some things that the Lord was sharing with me and was telling me, but I am going to share that, but it's important for you to know as a person and as an individual. Listen, you wasn't the only one that was raped mentally, physically, taken advantage of. You're not the only man. You're not the only woman. This is not a color thing. This is a hurt thing, a pain thing that covers every line of ethnicity, that covers every belief system. Pain don't sit up there and say, I'm going to be white today. Pain don't sit up there and say, I'm going to be orange, I'm going to be black, I'm going to be blue. I'm from China, I'm from Greece, I'm from United States. Pain is what it is, and it's across the board. And it can be inflicted in many different ways. But we have to get an understanding how to stop the pain, how to stop the hurt. Go to the root of the problem. Grab your kids like God told us to and say, listen, I didn't woke up. I ain't on drugs no more. I ain't on alcohol. I ain't chasing men no more. I ain't in out them clubs. Let me come back and let me begin to apologize to you. Let me take accountability for my actions of what I did, whether they was right or whether they was wrong, and explain to that young woman, listen, I'm wrong. It's your daughter. It's your daughter's daughter. I don't care. She's 50 years old. I was wrong about some stuff. And I tried to run the church and try to hide it. But I never addressed the issue to sit down and talk to you about this thing. So let me address this issue. I can run to God and tell God all about this thing because I was one of them. But I needed to address the issue with my children. The word of God says, again, charity starts at home. Then it sets abroad. Listen, I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm sorry that I wasn't there to fix your lunches, or I wasn't there to go to your games, or I wasn't there when you went to the prom, or I wasn't there to take you to that father-daughter dance, or I'm talking to men and women, or I wasn't there at your baseball games. Yeah, I'm sorry for bringing men up in the house. I'm sorry that I didn't know them, but I was a hot mess. Then you begin to tell them about yourself. I was a hot mess. My mind wasn't on. And I got this from the generation that I grew up in. Excuse me. I got this from the generation that I grew up in, and I was wrong. I was wrong on many different levels. I'm sorry that I didn't adhere. I'm sorry that I didn't listen. I thought by sending you to school, I thought by sending you with your grandparents, I thought by sending you with your cousins, I thought by doing this that I was doing a better job. But I thought that they would take care of you. But it's my bad because it was my responsibility, and I have to take accountability for what I have done. This is what needs to be said. This is what needs to be done. We need to come up against this devil trying to kill, steal, and destroy our children and our future generations that to come. And you begin to stop. Don't call your kid all them negative names. Okay, yeah, we got mad. We say stuff. Then you go back and say, listen, I'm sorry. Forgive me. But let me tell you something this. You know, it says, honor thy mother and thy father so thy days will be long upon the earth. But it also says this. Do not provoke your children unto wrath. So we can't provoke our children. We can't be wrong in some circumstances, not all. But we explain to them, we want to bring in the structure. This is why I'm hard on you. I'm hard on you because, listen, you got it easy. Y'all got cell phones. Y'all got computers. Y'all got this. Y'all got that. But what's happening is they don't really have the education because they're not being taught. The tutelage needs to be taught. We need to turn off the television, turn off the phone, get knowledge into our children, pump it into our children, sit down and read with them, learn yourself, say, oh, you know what? I didn't know that. I'm finding out stuff that I didn't even know. I shared with you earlier, growing up, I thought Africa, we all came from Africa, but that's not the case. It's Africa, and then below that is what Negro land. And a lot of us came from Negro land. Matter of fact, the majority of the population came from Negro land, the line of Judah, came over here as slaves on some ships. Come on, somebody. Not only that, I was reading earlier how the Grecians also got a lot of the slaves from the land of Judah, which is the Negro land. Come on, somebody. Don't let the maps fool you. Go back further and further. Go back to the map of 1700. Go back to the map of 1100. Go back and look. You'll find out the gold where they say where they got the gold from. The grain coast. Then they had the gold. Then right there it says the slave. This is where the slaves were taken from and got on the ships. Come on, somebody. Learn. Get in there. Seek. Find knowledge. You know, it says, behold, old things have passed when all things have become new. Your mindset has got to change. My favorite scripture is Romans 12 and Romans 12. I beseech you, therefore, brother, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, for this is your reasonable service. But be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Get somewhere, get sanctified. Stop all that smoking, stop all that drinking, stop going to all them clubs, and get your mind together. Sanctify that body. Start eating good things so your mind can be clear, so you won't be foggy. So when somebody does talk with you, you can have a good understanding. Oh, this is what you're saying? This is what I'm understanding? Okay, that fasting, that praying, if you choose to do that again, go before who? Go before you go to your doctors and your medicine and say, listen, I want to fast and pray. I'm seeking for some knowledge. I need to know some things from on high. And you take your medicine. Now, what we're talking about, I need to go back because I don't want to get so far out there away from what I'm supposed to say. You're not alone. And I'll say it again, you're not alone. You probably felt like you was never loved. You probably felt like you probably felt like you were never loved. You probably felt like you were abandoned. You probably felt like you didn't just get attention the way that you did, and the attention that you got was negative. The attention you got was, I got to go out there and hustle. The only time I get attention is when I get money. I got to get money to make money. I got to go out there and do these things. So what I'm saying to you is when you begin to say, listen, what do you mean love, real love? Sit down with your children. Sit down with some nieces and nephews. Sit down when people come in your house and say, man, what's your definition of what do you think love really is? Because a lot of children was not parented. That's what I got to get back to. In the 80s, let me go back because I feel like I'm getting above myself. In the 80s, when the drugs came on the scene, it took a populace out, especially in the poor neighborhoods or people of color. It took us out. We were not the only ones. Come on, somebody. But it took a set of people out. It took our grandmothers, our mothers. It took us out, and they just, they put something in it that made them want it more and more and more and more. They became addicted to them, addicted to drugs, and so therefore, because they was on that place in that era, it left our children abandoned and alone. And we had a lot of our color children go into foster care, not just our color, because this is not a black thing, this is across the line thing, go into foster care. But I want to reach these young men and these young women of color out there, because this is going on too long. This is generational stuff. This is way back in slavery day that's coming down. And they try to put this stuff in our DNA with this Willie Lynch type stuff that, split, divide, and conquer each other. And we've got to change their narrative. We've got to change that. I'm trying to tell you out here in these streets, we've got to change that. And we don't always have to change it with arms and guns and stuff like that, but we need to change it by ensuring our generations to come to do better. For those of us that are living, too many of us is dying out there in them streets over nonsense, over a different type of mentality. You guys think, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. That's how I got to show a person this and show a person that. Where did we learn how to kill each other at? Where'd that come from? How did that even come on the scene like that, where you don't care about life or the struggles that you come from? It's because you don't understand where you came from. It doesn't understand. You don't understand the struggle. You don't understand how they were beat, how they were torn down, how they were broken, how they were whipped, how the children died, how they would take our kids and take them by the hooves of their feet and take the babies and break them on the trees, and rape our women in front of our men and break that men's mentality down, how they took our men and made them become bucks, and how they took our women and made them just become baby carriers just to have babies all across anybody's baby at any time. You don't understand. If they didn't do what you want them to do, how they would kill your husband in front of you or rape the wife in front of you. I tell you, I'm feeling some kind of way about this thing, because we got to fight for our generation. We got to fight for our children. We got to bring knowledge and say, listen, wake up this generation. Listen, you got to live and not die in this thing called life. You got to get it how they live. God is there, and God is waiting for you to turn to him. You got to turn to him and say, listen, I need the knowledge. He is your God. He is your God, and you are his people. And we never were supposed to know this. We were never supposed to get the education. We were never supposed to get the insight. They was beat. They was ripped. They was killed. They hands and feet was chopped off so they wouldn't leave, or so they couldn't work to teach them a lesson. Only thing they wanted them to do is pick cotton and sing sad songs. But the devil is a lie on today. Wake up, oh sleeper. Wake up. Let me tell you, generations. Let me tell you, young men out there in the streets. Let me tell you, our women out there in the streets. Why you twerking and backing that thing up? Why you out there slanging? You are somebody. You are a child of the Most High God. You are a princess. You are a prince. You are somebody to be reckoned with in the spiritual realm. We need you to mount up, and we need you to get this knowledge, and we need you to find and seek this knowledge, and we need you to teach your children and your children. Have days where you bring in your family. Make it on I think my brother said his is Tuesday or something like that. Have days where you bring your family once a month or twice a month. Come together and talk about these things. Find out what's on each other's mind. Get the devil out of the way. Oh, he don't want me to call him. Oh, he mad at me. I ain't gonna call him. Say, what's happening? What's up? Don't keep reaching out. Keep reaching out. Keep reaching out. Keep reaching out. Oh, my son mad at me because how I raised him. I let somebody else raise him. Or he was in the system. You keep reaching out. You say, listen, son, I was wrong. Listen, daughter, I was wrong. You don't know how to be a daughter because I wasn't a daughter to my mother. I might have been her daughter biologically, but I was doing my own thing when I was young. I was out there in the street. My mother was trying to tell me to stop. I don't know how to be a son because my daddy wasn't in the house. Why wasn't he in the house? Because he got caught up and he got he's in the pen. We lost a lot of our people in the pen. How did we lose a lot of people in the pen? Because of the mentality. They tried to get it how they live, and they got caught up in the system, and they got caught up selling drugs because they wanted money. Why did they want money? Because they wanted to establish themselves, establish households. They didn't want us begging for bread. God said, never have I seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed beg for bread. But we didn't even know we was righteous. We didn't even know we was one of the righteous, because half of us wasn't in church because of, and I'll go back to that later, but we didn't even know we was righteous because it was stripped from us back in the 1700s, back in the 1800s, back in the 1900s, coming into 1940s, 1920s. It was still being stripped, and people decided to stand up and say, listen, we ain't gonna stay like this as a people. We ain't gonna, we finna to fight, even if it costs me my life. I'm going to stand up for the future generations to come. And we have got to do it. We have got to let them know that they are somebody and that they are something. And you are not alone. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you hurt. I'm sorry that your feelings was hurt. I'm sorry that you were broken. I'm sorry that you was oppressed. I'm sorry. I for the mothers and fathers that's not here, that's gone. For the mothers and fathers that couldn't say it, that couldn't find the right words to say it. I'm telling somebody out there today, you are not alone. You have somebody. You are loved. In this life, God wanted you to experience love. And you shall, because why? Everything he made is good. But you have to sit down. You need to learn of yourself. You need to come out from that world. Come out from amongst them. And be ye separated, saith the Lord, so I can talk with you. So I can deal with you. You can't be so high till you can't receive nothing. You know, we have, I remember I told you I did that video. God told me to open up my spiritual eyes. Open up my spiritual eyes. Not eye, but eyes. And when I begin to see the angels of the Lord. I begin to hear things and see things. And God began to put things together for me. I said, wow, I thought didn't nobody love me. I thought I was alone. I thought this. I thought that. I thought this. And then it was ripped. It was stolen from me. It was taken from me. Then I began to hear the words of my mother. He allowed me to hear the words of my mom saying, listen, I love you. Listen, this and this. Listen, that and that. And I began to put myself together and build myself up from within inside. My mind, my heart, my soul, I begin to get closure. And this is what we need to do. We need to reach back and give closure to our children and bring understanding and bring some literature in, begin to educate them, begin to say, listen, let me tell you how I did this and let me tell you where I went wrong. Come on, somebody. Even to our sons, let me tell you what happened to me. This is why I don't want you to follow in my footsteps. This is why I don't want you down on the corner. This is why I don't want you hanging out with such and such and such and such. I was wrong to even do that in front of you. I wasn't right. I didn't think that you would do it. But at that time in my life, I wanted us to have things. I wanted us to make it. I wanted us to acquire things. So I thought selling dope was the way. I thought hoeing was the way. I thought robbing was the way. I thought stealing was the way. I thought that. So that's what I did. And I ended up putting myself in a situation and I should never even been in, and now I'm in the system. But I don't want you in the system. I don't want my grandkids in the system. So I want to educate you. I want you to get a job. I don't care if it's at McDonald's. I want you to go to school. I don't care if it's a local school. I want you to get books. I don't care if you go to the local library. I want you to seek out the truth and knowledge of who you are and your origin, because I didn't have that mentality, because it didn't come from my generation of my mom and my dad and my forerunners. And if they tried to tell me, I didn't want to listen because I wanted to be my own man or I wanted to be my own woman. Listen, I hope that I'm not speaking over no one's head. I hope that I'm not saying too much, but it needs to be said. It needs to be said. We need to wake up. I don't care what culture you are. I don't care what age you are. I don't care what where you are in the world. I don't care who sees this. We have a responsibility. Well, we have accountability first and foremost to God, and then to our children. And because we're supposed to teach them, and we are accountable for our actions and what we've done. So we have to go back and we got to repent. A lot of us need to renounce. Leave that old witchcraft, that lying, that all that crap alone. We need to renounce some soul ties with people. Renounce some of that stuff. People just was never good for you. They should have never been in your life. I'm just here to tell you, it was a setup from the gate. You should have never even been around them. You need to renounce those soul ties, break those ley lines, break those silver cords, and say, okay, God, behold, all things have passed away and all things have become new. I'm ready to be a new creature in this life. I want to experience love. For those of us that never experienced love, those of us that felt like we never would have it on this plane at this time. And I'm here to tell you today that you are loved. that everything that about you is good, but you had, unfortunately, you came the hard way. But let me tell you this. This is what the word of God says. He said, who I deliver from the most is going to love me the most. When God gets a hold of you and begin to deliver you and heal you and purge you and set you free, and you find out you can go on trips, and you find out that you can do this, that you can cross the bridge, and you find out, not only do I got to see Hawaii on TV, I can go to Hawaii, I can go to Bora Bora. It ain't just for the people that's out there, but a lot of people have gotten themselves together and they're working. You can do the same thing. You don't have to sit here and allow your flesh, allow your life to be on these streets without moving forward. I know you want more in life. I know you want better in life, but you need closure. And I wish that I could be the person to give it to you. I wish that I could come in and hold you in my heart and say, listen, I didn't mean to do those things. Listen, I should have listened to you. Oh, bless the wonderful name of the Lord. I should have listened to you. Listen, forgive me. Listen, I'm sorry that you felt abandoned. I'm sorry that you felt alone. I'm sorry that you felt discarded. I'm sorry that I wasn't the person that I should have been. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you feel the way that you feel. So we have to stop the enemy in his tracks. The enemy does not stop moving. The enemy wants to continue to kill, steal, and destroy our lineage, our philosophies. He wants to just destroy our relationship with God. He wants to destroy what? The strength of God, the ties, the love that we have. He wants to come in and he wants to do that. He figured it out. He said, if I can come in and allow men to sin, if I can get into their anger, if I can get into their pain and allow them to sin against each other and to fight against each other, then I've won the battle. That's why the word of God says, be angry, but sin not. Be angry. Get yourself, bring your flesh under subjection. Mortify the deeds of the flesh. Breathe, woosah. Say, listen, hold on, let me get my mind together. Even if you have to separate yourself from another person or people, the untaught daughter, the untaught mother, the untaught sons, the untaught, I'm trying to tell you, the untaught daughter, the untaught sons, the untaught generation, the untaught grandfather, the untaught grandmother, the untaught great-grandfather, the untaught great-grandmothers. Those generations were untaught at no fault of their own. It's just what they've been through and what they had to go through. They didn't have a complete understanding. They had a zeal. The word of God says they had a zeal, but not according to knowledge. So here today, what I'm pushing to you is knowledge. I want you to have knowledge. I want the people out there that's listening to me to have sons and daughters. I don't care if they're away in school. I don't care if they feel like, if they've made it. I don't care if they're doing things, but you don't have that closeness, that relation. Call your son. Call your daughter. Ask for forgiveness. Find out what the problem is. And be a listening ear. Don't get upset when they begin to say, listen, Mom, you made me feel some kind of way. Listen, Dad, you made me feel some kind of way. I have an older son. I went to him. I said, listen, what did I do? What did I say? See, I'm delivered from the thing, so I don't have a problem with saying it. Was I not a good mother to you? Because my mom basically raised you, but because I worked all the time, but this is why. I was able to work, able to provide, because your grandmother watched you. It's not that I didn't want you. It's not that I didn't love you. But your grandmother watched you while I went to school. She wanted me to make something of myself. I'm giving this as an example. I went to school to make something of myself so we could have something in life. I worked these little penny ante jobs so we wouldn't have to be on welfare. And if we did, we got help any way that we could. So I wouldn't be on the street selling my body. I got a job. I went to school. My mother pushed that. This is why I wasn't in your life. This is why, not as much. I worked all the time. But to a child, he can feel abandoned. You have to see that other side. Oh, even though you're working, even though you out there trying to hustle, even though you out there trying to get it how you live, to make it happen and working 14, 15-hour jobs. I took jobs everywhere to try to make it work with my family. But I had to sit back and look at it from their perspective. Oh, I was abandoned. I had to raise myself. Oh, I was alone. I was this, I was that. And I had to say to my children, listen, you wasn't alone. Your mama worked. Your mama tried to go out there and make it happen. I wasn't trying to be sleeping, jumping in and out of bed with different men to try to get money. I put my foot to the floor and went out there and worked like my mother said. She said, if you don't work, you go to school. If you're not in school, she said, you learn how to do hair, you learn how to do something to keep money in your pocket. And those things have to be pushed in our children and our children's children. This is a generation of new entrepreneurs. This is a generation of people learning and open up their mind, but it's not enough. Keep on going. Keep going towards the mark in which your high calling that Christ has called you, and God has called you to a high calling in Him, and you just keep on going, and you keep talking to your children, and you keep telling your kids how you got here. You keep letting them know it was a misunderstanding. You keep talking to them, opening up their mindset so they'll know they're not abandoned, that they wasn't alone. You have to go back, and you got to. Charity starts at home, then it sets abroad. It's a song that the Canton Spiritual sing. He says, I got to clean up what I messed up. And yeah, we as mothers, let me just say this. We as mothers thought, okay, yeah, my mama got him, my mama got him, my sister got him, and I can go out there and work and I can do my thing, and they raised me, ain't nothing gonna happen to them because they raised me. But they're not their children. That's your child. That's your baby. That's your little girl. That's your little boy. And even though they have a grandmother's love, they need a mama's love. And you're wrong. And even though they need a father's love, they had a grandfather's love, they needed a father's love. And you wrong. And you have to say, listen, I made some bad choices, son. I don't care if you're in prison, listen to this. You start writing a letter and say, listen, let me tell you something. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I wasn't there for you. I'm sorry that I abandoned you. I'm sorry that you tried to follow in my footsteps, that I led that example. That's not what I was trying to do. I called myself from my environment, trying to hustle, trying to get money, and I got caught up with other people in another life. I shouldn't have even never been around them people. It's all right. It's good. It's okay. It's okay. You can talk like that because you got to. Because if you don't talk, if you don't open up your mind, if you don't open up your mouth, somebody else is. And they've already lead and guide our children in a whole nother place anyway. I'm here to tell you today that the devil is a lie. Now I'm reading this real quick. Let me see. You probably feel, this is what it was dropped into my spirit. For love. This is for love, what you probably did for love. You probably never felt real love or true love because the only love you had was shown was that love that was in that environment, whether it was negative love, whether it was a beating, somebody beat you, somebody put you down, somebody manipulated you and taught you that that's the only way you can get love, or just giving you money. But there is a love out there. There's an agape love. You did whatever you could to get some kind of attention. And it all, and a lot of it was, I'm just going to be honest with you, it wasn't a good, healthy love. Some of it was abuse because of the loneliness. The loneliness opened the door to abandonment. The abandonment opened the door. You was beat down, you was put down, you said you'd never be nothing. But where did they get those words from? Those words were imparted to them. That's a different type of language that was imparted to them. Where did they get it? From generations before, from people that was around that had low self-esteem or abandonment issues that somebody told them. But I'm here to tell you today that the devil is a lie. You cannot say, my family this and my family that. We all got family. And some of them is good and some of them ain't right. I'm just here to tell you. But when your children come to you and say, listen, uncle said this, or auntie said this, or uncle did this, or auntie did that, listen to them. Sit down and have a conversation with them and say, listen, were you ever touched? Were you ever molested? Did they say something to your mind? Did they beat you when I was gone? Because you can break a child, or you can break a person or an individual any kind of way, not thinking at that time. One day, little Lisa gonna grow up, okay? Or little Annie gonna grow up, or little Melanie gonna grow up, or little Valerie gonna grow up, or little Tyrone gonna grow up, or little Danny gonna grow up, or little Jig gonna grow up, and they're gonna become a man, and they're gonna become a woman. They're gonna remember everything that you've done, and then they're gonna have kids. It's called learned behavior. Don't listen. When they come to you and they begin to talk to you about the aunties and the uncles, if something negative will happen, listen. You know how your brother is. You know how your sister is. You know how your auntie is. You know how your cousins is. Matter of fact, tell your children how they are. Listen. Don't be so combative. That's my sister. That's my brother. Knowing that they wrong. They can be wrong. I was wrong sometimes with some stuff. I was wrong. I feel bad about a lot of things. Not that I did so much, but I feel bad because I got a generation of nieces and nephews I haven't even been around in 20 years because we live apart. I love my nieces, I love my nephews, but I really don't know them. And I got to try to figure out how to get to know my nieces, how to get to know my nephew. It wasn't their fault. It was my fault because I moved away. Come on, somebody. Trying to build myself up, trying to get myself in a position. And I was living life out here. And then guess what? I missed out on their life. So this is what I'm saying. Come clean. Come clean. Come clean with some stuff. You know, it's important that we as people and we as individuals, when it comes to love, that we don't just throw that word around. What is love? What does love mean to you? What does that mean to your heart, soul, body, and mind? Because I know a lot of people that told me they're good people, nice looking people, nice looking men, nice looking women, and they only felt love is when they bought something. Where'd they get that from? That's learned behavior. They get that from a parent or parents or somebody in their family. Buy me this, buy me that, give me this, give me that, give me some money. I want some money. And then they go out there to hustle the street so they can get some kind of love, so they can get a hug, so they can get stroking. Oh, thank you, baby, for buying me this. Thank you, baby, for getting me this. But they don't know the love when you don't have no money. And I just want to sit here with you and chop it up. We can eat bologna sandwiches. They don't know that love, that we can turn on music and just dance and just have a good time. They don't know that love that when you go to church or wherever you go and you begin to lift up your hands and say, God, it is me that's standing in need of prayer, and that peace come about you. They don't know that love because they wasn't taught that love. They don't know that love that I just want to feed you without getting something in return. I had a young man tell me, he said, you're the first person that ever been around me that never tried to sleep with me. You're the first person that never talked underneath my clothes. He said, I will always respect you for that. You're the first person that just didn't want money from me or things from me. You're the first person in my life that just loved me and listened to me. Sometimes you just need to listen. Sometimes you need to sit back and say, okay, all right, I understand, but let me tell you this. Let me reassure you that even though you've been through all these things, that God has not forgotten about you, and that is your testimony. I'm not going to keep you any longer. I don't know how long this video is, but I will do another video because I didn't get it out. I want to talk about that parenting. You know, yes, we allowed our mothers and stuff to raise kids and aunties and stuff, but there's nothing like you parenting your own children and putting into them the resources that you learned in your life. You know, good things, you know, teaching them how to cook, and that's love. Teaching them how to clean, that's love. Talking to them about where they are in life, you know, talking to them about the men that they date, or talking to them about the women that they date, what to look for, the tricks and the snares of the enemy that's out there. This is parenting your child. It's more than just spreading your legs and having the child and putting down your pants and performing. It's more than that. When they come on the scene, this is our future generation, and we don't want them to be enslaved, and we don't want them to be taught. We are somebody, and we come from fine stock. Hear me here today. I don't know who I'm talking to, but you are loved. The devil is a lie. I hope that I'm able to come back and do another video about this and maybe have a greater understanding. But you come from something, and you come from somebody that loved you and established you. You are scholars, you are doctors, you are lawyers, you are inventors, you are scientists, you are councilmen, you are judges, you're pilots, you're seamstress. You come from greatness. Awaken your spiritual eyes. That's within God, Jesus Christ, who is our Lord and Savior. Awaken your spiritual eyes. Just because I said the name of Jesus, don't turn your back on me. Don't do it. I know a lot of you guys say, well, the white man, I don't want to hear nothing about that. Because listen, when colonizing comes, you got to understand what a colonizer is. When a person comes in, or people come in to change something, to colonize something, or come in to implant what they want, then they try to tear up the foundation, and they put everything they want in it. So if they want you to believe in them, and they happen to be purple, then they God gonna be a purple God. They're gonna give you purple pictures of a purple God, and everything that purple God that they believe in, they're gonna draw off of that, and they're gonna feed you that in that environment and in that place. Next thing you know, person said, "Why are you only wearing purple?" Well, that's what I was taught, a purple God. That's what I was taught, purple clothes. That's what I was taught, purple food. So that's what that is. It has no color barrier. But let me explain something to you too. Don't get caught up. Find things out for yourself. Seek things out for yourself. I'm that type of a person. And I began to seek God for myself about a lot of different things. And I kept coming up higher and higher, seeking more and seeking more. And I wanted to find out who I was so I know what I could accomplish in this life. And I went a lot of different ways to find it. But I always come back to this, that there is one God, one Jehovah, one Elohim, one Adonai. He is my beginning and he is my end. And you know what? He told me as a little girl, you have a purpose in this life and I have a plan for you. May God bless you. May God keep you. Keep your minds elevated. Behold, old things have passed away. All things have become new. What did I say? Beseech ye therefore, brethren, by what? The mercies of God, the mercies of Elohim, the mercies of Adonai, the mercies of Yahweh, to present your bodies a living sacrifice. Get cleaned up. Start taking off the old and putting on the new. Holy and acceptable unto God, for this is your reasonable service. Why? Because he gave you this life. He gave you houses that you didn't build. He gave you cars. He gave you animals. He gave you farms. He gave you a mindset. He rose you up this morning. And as long as you're on this side of contradiction, you have another chance to get this thing right. Huh? By the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, for this is your reasonable service. Be not conformed to this world. Come out of this systematic world and this systematic place and this systematic thinking. Seek after the knowledge. Gain the knowledge. Seek him early while he may be found. But be ye transformed by what? The renewing, the newness of your mind, in your new territory, in your new thinking, by the renewing of your mind. Let God come in and captivate that mind with your spiritual eyes. I ain't talking about none of that Illuminati crap. I'm talking about when you go before God, say, it's me standing in the need of prayer. Open up your mindset by the renewing of your mind. Be renewed on today. But let me tell you this before I go, that this is a day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. May God bless you. May God keep you. And you are not alone.